Something else God doesn't want is for this Brilyn Hollyhand to be leading us to the Israeli promised land. Let's see what we have here. Will this work? Meet Brilyn Hollyhand. Can we have, there we go. Teen conservative hailed as Charlie Kirk's protege promises to be bolder as tour campus starts. Now, he is like far from, where's my list? I got to pull out my list. I got a list of this clown. Where is it? Over here? Have you all ever heard? I never heard of Brilyn Hollyhand. He has a show that no one watches, but he's being picked up and made by the GOP. How much do you want to bet that on his college tours, he's going to talk about how blessed his life is by God, when really it's the GOP? And that if you just start praying, your life will be equally as blessed. The teen, widely hailed as Charlie Kirk's protege, looked up to the conservative influencer as his mentor and has vowed to get louder and bolder even as the death threats against him have skyrocketed in the wake of his idol's assassination. Brilyn Hollyhand, a 19-year, by the way, apparently Hollyhand is like a very old Proto-German Anglo-Saxon word for a tweaking Manchurian candidate. It's a very old word. Very old. You'll have to look it up. Although I might be wrong. A 19-year-old dubbed the internet's youngest voice of reason has his popularity surge. Now, when I say nobody watches, I mean clips with like 2 hearts, 0 hearts, 1 comment, 0 comments. I mean, the guy he was not reaching anybody. Even has a book that nobody reads. Has seen his popularity surge. Pint-sized, since his pint-sized, he was a pint-sized 4th grader back in 2018. Folks, this guy is another, another one of those guys who is probably attracted to males and in an environment where that's still taboo. That's still unacceptable. So, like some of the others we've seen, the intense focus on himself, this absolute narcissism of a lot of these female traits, this need to be in the middle and of the conversation, and the conversation always has to be about him. In fact, some of his former classmates have said exactly that about him. But I figured that out in a clip where he was being interviewed, and we're going to watch just a portion of it, the really like spooky portion. But I watched the whole clip where he's on Fox News the hour after Charlie Kirk is pronounced dead or said to be dead by Donald Trump. And this guy, Brilyn Hollyhand, praising Kirk, said that Kirk was such a great guy because he decided to come on Brilyn's show, and Brilyn was only in 4th grade. Isn't that fascinating? Of course, we all know how that happens. Dad and mom are giving huge donations to the Republican Party, and the Republican Party tells Charlie Kirk, you're going to go on this kid's show, because this would not have happened any other way. But here's the point I want to make about Brilyn. Brilyn said, Charlie Kirk is such an amazing guy. He could have seen me as a competitor. Only a stupendously narcissistic, psychotic person, unable to really relate to other human beings in the proper a mirror neuron way could say that Charlie Kirk, an adult, could have viewed the fourth grader as competition and therefore not appeared on his show. He seriously said that. But it gets creepier, and we'll play the clip where it's extra creepy. Since then, Hollyhand has drawn in nearly 500,000 followers like this. This is the making, in a hurry, of an Israeli supporter. This kid, and he's a man, technically, but let me tell you, he doesn't look like a man. He doesn't grow any whiskers. I mean, it's very strange. It's very strange. Nothing about him says man. But this, so I'm going to call him a kid because that's how we really strike. He's 19 though. And he goes to Auburn. He's a freshman. Somehow he can skip classes for this tour. But this guy, in a clip that we're going to play, what are the top 3 priorities, do you think, that he gave to Christian conservatives in America? Anybody want to guess? Anybody want to hazard a guess? He lists them in order. And then he gives, a little bit later, he gives another ordering that still puts that still puts the 2 other categories in the ordering at first and third place. His top 3 priorities that he recommends for Christian conservatives are Israel, Jewish people on planet Earth, and America first. I shit you not. This little treasonous anti-white shit said Israel, Jews on planet Earth, and America first. He then tried to say the same thing over a little bit later, got the ordering mixed up a little bit, said Israel, America first, Jews on planet Earth. But when he said it the first time, I think that's when, for himself, he got it right. This is what you're looking at. Meanwhile, and we'll dig into it in just a moment, you have Netanyahu in the United States regularly meeting with conservative content creator influencers on all of the platforms, inviting them to trips to Israel. I can only assume, sanity only can assume, that they're getting financially rewarded by supporting Israel, and Jews who support Israel can only imagine. You know what? In all the clips that I've listened to from little Brilyn, not a single comment about the victimization of the white race. And this kid is supposed to be from down home Alabama, right? Isn't that supposed to be like number 1 priority? It's all about the white people down there in Alabama. No mention. He's a little anti-white bitch. Servitude to any group of people other than our own is anti-whiteism. If you say we need to be protecting Jews on planet Earth, you are anti-white. If you say that we have to be fighting for Israel, guaranteeing Israel's safety, financing Israel, you are anti-white. Period. This is what they're foisting onto white Christian America. By the way, we'll play a video of that garbage anti-white from Israel saying to this room full of conservative content creators that answering a question rather about the most supportive element in America for Jews and for Israel is white Christianity. What if we lose them? What then? And of course he says, well, we can't. We can't. We got to make sure that what they think and what they know about Israel remains positive, that they remain sycophantic, that they remain servile, that they do not pursue white well-being. That's what we have to ensure. In the wake of Kirk's public execution, Hollyhand told the Post on Monday he could never emulate his mentor, but will do what the Lord has given me the opportunity to do. So there he is. Charlie has a very huge shoes to fill, not just because he was a man with a large shoe size. Nah, that's the goobery type of humor you'll get from such people. But because legitimately nobody can replace him. My goal is not to be Charlie, but to be Brilyn. No shit. Because Brilyn is all that matters. It's like Fuentes is all that matters. Hollyhand's rise to conservative stardom happened overnight. But here in the New York Post, maybe getting big money from Israeli supporters in the United States, I don't know. They decide that his rise to fame began when he was, let's see, I guess in fourth grade, 11. No, that would be younger. They're clocking his rise to fame from when he was 11, when he started when he started whatever particular podcast this is. He started his newsletter, he claims, when he was in fourth grade. Sure you did. But he was nothing. He was this quantity in the background that was put in contact with being politically groomed, politically prepared to serve this role by the GOP. He's not the only one. You know, if we were to go looking, we would find many more. But let me just read a smattering of the names of the people that Hollyhand here was in proximity with, arm in arm, photographs with for many years. Ben Carson, Marco Rubio, Blowjob Vance, Trump, Mike Huckabee, Sarah Huckabee, Vivek Ramaswamy, Tulsi Gabbard, Tim Scott, Laura Trump, Ron DeSantis, Tucker Carlson, Nikki Haley, Michael Knowles, Tommy Lahren, Riley Gaines, Herschel Walker, and Carrie Lake, and perhaps most importantly, and this is not even a full list. You see, this kid was getting this treatment, the blessings from God, before anyone knew of him, before anyone read his newsletter, before anyone watched any of his podcasts. It doesn't get more artificial. Here's the biggest one. He's pictured with smiling arm in arm with Michael Whatley, chairman of the GOP. Current chairman of the GOP, Michael Whatley. This kid's been on half a dozen shows on Fox. You never saw any of those episodes because nobody cared who he was. All over Newsmax. Well, of course, on the Huckabee Show and many different conservative podcasts. So much to share. On a channel with, 500,000 followers, gets only, 1,400 views on his interview because nobody cares who Brilyn Hollyhand is. He shares some interesting things about his upbringing. This over a year ago. I'll be sharing that with you. The making of the leadership for our resistance to our victimization. Folks, that's what we're seeing right here. This is more of the officialdom name, but no less grafted onto reality than those who are grafted onto the less official looking, more of the resistance. The United States very skilled at color revolutions. They know exactly what they're doing. The only thing you can trust is whether or not something is white positive or anti-white. Everything else you have to reject. No content creator. His rise to stardom started when he was 11. No, it started when Kirk was assassinated. Kirk, of course, by the way, a very convenient assassination by anti-white Tyler Robinson. Very convenient assassination. because Kirk, as you know, even though he was this effusive, subservient lover of Judaism, of Jews, and of Israel, he had started to express concerns about the current political regime in Israel, started to express concerns about what we would rightly call anti-white Jews financing anti-whiteism, because of course there are anti-white Jews, just as there are Jews who aren't anti-white. He began to express concern about October 7 and how was this attack carried out without Israel being complicit in the attack. Brilyn is not questioning any of these things. He didn't need to go on the Brilyn Hollyhand show with a fourth grader, but he did, and he gave me that opportunity. Here you have, of course, you have Brilyn here. And they have Kirk. Now, for some reason, Kirk here looks like he sells bootleg Nintendo games out of the back of a dirty van, but it is what it is. The college freshman said he was even texting with Kirk just hours before he was gunned down. I don't believe that. Proof. This is the establishing of legitimacy in people who are self-centered. People who are self-centered, self-focused, psychotic. This is the exact kind of thing they do. We were speaking that morning. I was talking to him the moment he was gone. Shut up. Hollyhand was named co-chair of the Republican National Committee Youth Advisory in 23. And he's about to kick off his 10-stop tour of the universities across the country in collaboration with Turning Point, who immediately, I can only assume, are the ones paying for the private jets, flying him around the country now. So let's keep moving. This talks about the agreement with Turning Point that he just reached for him to get out there and start spreading the gospel. Let's hear from this kid himself here. This kid was created in Langley, says Clint. No, he is a fixture, though, of the GOP. It's like they took Charlie Kirk, made him gay, writes Clint, removed any sense of intellectual curiosity or sincerity, and preloaded him with 100 times more psychologically pro-Israel talking points. Not buying this one. Take a listen to a guy you're going to be hearing a lot from, and will be brain poisoning a lot of good white Christian conservative, and maybe conservative white conservatives in general, certainly in America, but even around the world.
What we're seeing going on right now across college campuses all over the country, specifically Yale and Columbia, they're getting shut down and overrun by these anti-Jew protesters, these pro-Gaza protesters, these terrorists.
I want to point out, though, another victory of ours just there. Anti-Jew. I'm sorry. What did you say, Brilyn? What did you say? You didn't say anti-Semites. You said anti-Jew. You're welcome, white world. You are welcome. You won't show your gratitude because you're garbage, but you're welcome nonetheless.
Sympathizers. That's what they are. Let's call it out for what it is. It's disgusting. It's vile. It's inhumane. Listen, the Democrat Party is being radio silent on this. Why? Because these are their own supporters. And in the case of Ilhan Omar, her act.
Let me jump in really quickly. I agree with him that being anti-Jew, opposed to Jews on their birth, is, my first thought is that it's not productive for creating a people out of the white race. In fact, that position is destructive. My next thought is that that's immoral, and the vast majority of white people believe it's immoral to condemn somebody on the basis of their birth. That has nothing to do with anti-whiteism, you losers. So number one, it's destructive to the creation of a people out of the vitiated white race. So I agree with Brilyn here. Being anti-Jew is wrong. It's immoral as well. But he goes a different place.
Daughter out there standing in the picket line and protesting us. It's disgusting, and they should be calling it out. It's pretty easy to come on and say, hey, we're pro-Israel, we're a pro-Jewish people, we're pro-America.
Pro-Israel, pro-Jewish people. Do you think this little bitch would say that we are pro-white, that we are white? Do you think he would say, it's pretty easy to say that we are white positive? Pretty easy to say. We are white positive, and then we are for all of the countries that we have created, all of Western civilization, therefore. Do you think he'd be able to say that? Absolutely not. This is a combination of, not of Langley. That's another poisonous, self-destructive idea, non-starter. If they can fabricate, if there is a dark, hidden they with all this power and knowledge, and they could just churn people out like this, left and right, you don't stand a chance. And that's why people get depressed and they leave. That's why people do nothing. Why would you do anything against Langley? They have a robot up your ass right now, and this guy's piloting it. How does this happen? It's a combination of the anti-white influence on Christianity, anti-white Christianity, anti-white-ianity, and the political entity called the GOP, which is anti-white as well, and the state of Israel, which is clearly behaving in an anti-white way by steering the population with whatever influence they wield in the United States to someplace that benefits them at the expense of Western kind. No, thank you. That's how people like him happen. And if you don't understand that, if you think it's a group of people working at Langley, then your conclusions will be, well, we just have to put new leadership in Langley. We just need to get rid of the CIA altogether. You see how dumb this is? You need to know where this comes from. And we have the answers for where it comes from and how to remedy it. But let's get back to this little clown, this little bitch, this little anti-white bitch. Why is he a bitch? Not because he puts Jews before us, but because he's anti-white by putting Jews before us. Might seem subtle to the vegetables out there. That is a Brobdingnagian difference.
It's that simple. But instead, the Democrats are supporting this anti-Israel message being spouted by their supporters out there in Columbia and Yale. And they're supporting this Death to America chant by letting this continue on. They've got to put a stop to this. On the other hand, Republicans are pro-Israel, we're pro-America, and we're pro-protecting Jewish citizens not only in Israel, but across the world, even here.
So then he's pro-Jew people, pro-Jew individuals. He moved America up to second place. Pro-Israel, pro-America, and pro-every Jewish life on planet Earth. Man, this kid. You want to know who to blame? Not the Jews. You. You are to blame. If you are white and you are not implementing the only strategy that has demonstrated success in the creation of a people, that has demonstrated success in countering anti-whiteism, then you are responsible. You are the reason that's happening, rather than there being white positive candidates coming along. You want to blame Jews? Kill your speed. Because you are useless. You're worse than useless. You are AIDS to the white race. You are absolute AIDS. I know it's really confusing right now for you. Well, this guy, he seems like he's angry with Israel, but he doesn't blame Jews for being born Jewish, but he is angry with Jews who are anti-white. It just doesn't make sense. That's because your mind is soup. Your mother drank Tylenol. That's why. So stop thinking that you're going to somehow come to some sort of answer, thinking that your 3-word "it's the Jew" answer could even remotely approximate a proper understanding of the socio-political dynamics undermining the white race, and shut up and get in line and take instruction from people who are your betters. These broken, clinically retarded white people need to hear the truth. It's your fault. You want to see candidates that stand up for the white race and who say it should be easy to say white positivity, pro-America. Then you have to become a people. And you cannot become a people if you keep complaining. We had somebody in the chat that just said, well, Jews are anti-white. I don't know how you magically know that. You couldn't possibly. I mean, I just want to, the people who say these kind of things, you can't know that. You're just talking out of your ass. You can't know what they automatically are. But here I can defeat you. And not only is that a destructive notion to propagate, it's an immoral notion. It's a notion that pushes white people away from contending with anti-whiteism. All right? But it gets worse, because even if you somehow had omniscience and you know that every Jew ever born, could be born, will be born are anti-white, by opposing anti-whiteism, you oppose all of them. So what are you missing by doing the right thing, the productive thing, and take on anti-whiteism? What are you missing out on? We have this guy, and we don't have time to look at him, but there's a politician talking about how there shouldn't be Sharia law in America. And he wants to pass a bill. Constitution already says it can't be so, but he wants to pass a bill on top of that. No Sharia law ever, to the end of all time, no Sharia law. And that is a white positive thing to do. Islam does not comport. It's not a creation of Western kind. It does not comport with our biospirit. So that is a white positive thing to do. But Jew haters, Jew spurgs, won't like arresting that entire vector of our victimization, because it's not victimizing Jews. You see the sickness of this anti-non-white thinking. Give it up. If you are mired in that shit, give it up today. Make the decision to be white positive instead of anti-non-white. All the Jews are, and the guy who is like a bad plumber is telling me that somehow he knows that all the Jews that have ever been born, are currently alive, and will ever be born are anti-white. Thanks so much. Fucking retarded. They're all in, if you were innocent when you were saying that, you're like, oh man, I was just like tossing that in there. I didn't really mean for it to be a big thing. Understand that I've heard that 10,000 times. So understand where my response is coming from. 30 years ago, we didn't have Brilyn Hollyhand. Now we do have Brilyn, the most obvious shill for Israel, anti-white, which is what matters as a consequence. And that notion of it's the Jews are all anti-white, has been in play for that entire time and all the generations before that. So there you have this little bitch, this little anti-white bitch, 19 years old, doesn't grow a whisker. Something's wrong. Here he is, right when Charlie Kirk was said, within the hour of Charlie Kirk being said dead by the President of the United States, it actually said it across the screen. This Charlie Kirk is dead was probably added by the person who cut the clip out, because along the bottom of the screen on Fox News, it said Trump and then colon and then Charlie Kirk is dead. And this Brilyn is on there on Fox News with this guy interviewing him, and the guy asks him about Brilyn's reaction, and look at this reaction. This is not normal human reaction, says the tweeter. Keep in mind that interview was given, within 2 hours.
Heartbreaking, Will. And obviously the person that took this live, this is heartbreaking, Will. And obviously the person that took this live, this is heartbreaking, Will.
Does that look like a normal
face? The person that
face?
took this live, this is heartbreaking, Will.
This is another psychotic narcissist. They find these people, and they really have them. They really have them by the short hairs when they have something that they can be blackmailed over. I mean, you had you have people online talking about how he might as well come out and say that he's a homosexual now, but he's not going to. They've got deep blackmail material because he's in an environment where this compromising material can be used to ruin him. Over in a night.
And obviously the person that took this live, this is heartbreaking, Will. And obviously the person that took this live, this is heartbreaking, Will.
You say this is heartbreaking. Do you have that much joy on your face? Here he is on the Learjet. Charlie Kirk's new successor is a gay trust fund kid named Brilyn Hollyhand, whose dad made his millions. Here's the thing. We'll play this in just 1 minute. Mom and dad. The interview I watched of Brilyn 1 year before this weekend, I was mentioning, got 1,400 views on a channel with hundreds of thousands of followers because no one cared about him. Nothing valuable to say. You can have everything in the world valuable to say and have fucking 130 some people show up. You can remedy lives. You can get children back in Canadian courts. You can change policies at police departments. You can go on and on with successes. Nobody shows up. You can have nothing of value to say. For years and years, no one shows up because you've got nothing to say. And suddenly, hundreds of thousands of followers come to hear what you have to say. In that interview, the interviewer says, how are you so precocious? Effectively, he's saying that. How are you so precocious? I mean, you're writing a newsletter at 9 years of age. Nobody's reading this. You're writing this newsletter at 9 years of age. Then you're starting a show. And you're out there, you're shaking. I mean, your parents must be intensely political. They must be involved the entire. No, he says, couldn't be further away from the truth. Mom's a teacher. Dad's in construction. Actually, folks, father owns a company. He's a developer along with other family members. And what do they specialize in? Putting low-income housing in your white neighborhood. How do you like that? Oh, we'll show you the website. They built some other things as well. They built a fire station here. They built a regular neighborhood there. They built a church over here. But they really specialize in affordable housing, working with HUD. Millions and millions and millions of our tax dollars. And a lot of those millions, I'm guessing, are big donations at least, heading right back in to the GOP. Dad made his millions putting Section 8 low-income housing in middle-class, white suburban neighborhoods in Alabama, in Mississippi, maybe Georgia. There he is. Oh, sorry. This is a video somewhere else, but not a video there. Here's the father of Brilyn. His name is Brian, an actual guy name. He's the vice president. Alabama, VP of a real estate company. and that has his granddaddy Douglas runs. I doubt the grandfather is still terribly active, but I don't know. Specializing in affordable housing. Let's take a look at well, here you go. Hollyhand developers. Just the kind of white people you want at the lead in right-wing, conservative Christian politics. By the way, had a charming little photograph of little Brilyn here, young Brilyn, leaning back, nothing but joy on his face with two black kids. Hollyhand Development LLC. 50 years of experience working with all facets of affordable housing. Development including extensive experience developing, financing, constructing, and managing housing utilizing financing through low-income housing tax credit program. We successfully developed more than 30 projects. And when I say these are developers, I talk about from time to time, I'll reference the mortal gods where, and I'll say an example of it is one day there is a farm and it's nothing but fields as far as the eye can see. And then the next day it's rooftops as far as the eye can see. That's these people. We have successfully developed more than 30 projects using the tax credits. So more projects than just 30, but 30 where they were using these affordable housing tax credit swindle, I guess, on. In 11 phases of public housing redevelopment, comprising over 1,000 units. These include projects under construction, projects financed with 4% tax credit. We have an excellent track record in obtaining 9% allocation on PHA redevelopment projects in Alabama, by far the most critical financing tool in the PHA redevelopment. We have raised well over $150 million in equity for public housing redevelopment projects in Alabama. How you like your white neighborhood now? How do you like your lily white flighted further and further away from it? But they'll find you. The anti-whites will find you. It doesn't matter whether they're on the left or on the right. Both are anti-white. Both are anti-white. These people, for their personal enrichment, because the whole firm is white. The whole firm is a bunch of white people. Look up all the pictures. They will gladly, as selfish individualists who don't have a people, make millions of dollars off your white asses and then put the predator to the prey projects right in the middle of your neighborhood. Successful something HTC application has submitted in Alabama for public housing redevelopment projects, both mixed finance and RAD. Overall, we have been successful on 13 of the last 16.9% of the LIHTC, I guess it is. These phases comprise 5 separate public housing community redevelopment efforts. Boy, they love it. They give you all of it. They brag about all of their Section 8 and affordable housing and how they're able to get all these government dollars and do all this for these people who will live in the affordable housing. And look at this team. Just like our anti-white shooter who went to the Mormon church today in Michigan. Time to blame the right people. Time to become a noticer of anti-whiteism before it's too late.